Hi, I'm Randolph Miller, and welcome to Bounce Around Charleston. We have some wonderful information for you today. Slave dwellings in Charleston and around the country. Joseph McGill will be here to tell us about that. Historian, author, harmonica player, Damon L. Fordham will be here to talk about book signing on February the 2nd. And then wonderful music from multi-talented gospel singer Javetta Campbell right here on Bounce Around Charleston. Okay, welcome to Bounce Around Charleston. Standing here with me is Brother Joseph McGill, and he's here to talk about the slave dwellings around the country. Welcome to Bounce Around Charleston.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show. Yes, the Slave Dwelling Project is what I'm here to talk about. The project is in its 6th year. In fact, May of this year, 7 years. The concept is very simple. Charleston is a very historic city. They talk about the antebellum buildings that make this city quite historic. But in these antebellum buildings, that's those buildings built prior to the Civil War.
Okay.
They talk about the architectural significance, the beauty of these buildings, the content of these buildings. But what they don't often talk about are the slave dwellings attached to them. They talk about the owners, the slave owners, but to get a thorough understanding of the enslaved people associated with these buildings, you have to ask more questions because...
Okay, so and the purpose of your project is to do what?
Is to bring awareness to these buildings and this part of the story, because for so long, we as a nation preferred to talk about those things that are pleasant, those things that make us comfortable. Slavery does not do that. Okay. And the buildings are still there that can help us tell this story. So that's the purpose of the project, to recognize, to let the public know that these buildings do exist, and we must acknowledge them, we must preserve them so that they can tell the stories of the people who lived in them.
So in your project, are you putting together a book of some sort?
What I do now when I sleep in these places is I compile the information and I write blogs. So if anyone were to go to my website right now, they could pull up an account of every slave dwelling that I've slept in thus far, the 91 in the 17 states and the District of Columbia that I've slept in so far.
So they've actually allowed you to go there and sleep in the dwellings? That
is correct. When this thing started 6 years ago, it was just a simple concept of sleeping there. But then it evolved, it grew. The owners, the stewards of these places saw the value. The people who have joined me since, they see the value. They see the opportunities to use these sites as classrooms, as places where we can have those conversations that we don't usually have in our normal circles.
So once you compile all this information, and who do you present it to?
I present it to those out there looking for the whole story. There are folks out there that are ignorant of the story and don't know it. There are some out there that are ignorant of the story and want to remain in that place. But the purpose is to make them aware that this is a part of the story that needs to be told. When we market the city of Charleston, when Charleston appears on those very short list of #1 places to be, they do not lead with this subject matter, although this subject matter of slavery was so vital to making this city as historic as it is. But this story, or the intent, is awareness, and using this awareness to bring other people aboard to know that this is necessary to tell this part of the story.
So what you're doing is actually, it's a part of history.
Yes, it is. It is. And yeah, history, yes, but it makes it fun. You know, a lot of folks, they see these historic sites, and African Americans in particular. Plantations are not on their short list of places to visit, and rightfully so, because of the way the history has been interpreted for so long. They tell the history from the angle of the enslaver. not from the angle of the enslaved. And what this project does, it kind of reverses that. It lets the public know that we were here too. Our ancestors, my DNA is rooted in those who were enslaved. It was because of them that I'm here. And I want folks to know that we come from a proud past. And if the buildings are gone, you know, we can continue the path that we have been going up until this point and not telling that part of the story.
Okay, I've been told that many times when you go into some of these places, it's like an airy feeling. Have you experienced that?
Well, you know, it is that for some, but you have to believe in those type things that you're feeling to get that feeling. Now, for me, again, 91 sites, 17 states, and the District of Columbia. Over 100 stays in some of these places, because some of these places are repeat. Some people call me back to come and have this experience and invite others to have the experience also. For some, it's they get that eerie feeling. Some want that eerie feeling, but I don't. I have to keep my mind on the physical. I got to keep my mind on preservation, because if we can preserve the buildings, then it gives these opportunities to come and have those feelings if they so choose.
So is there a registry published that people can go to some of these sites where you've been?
Their registry, yes. Registry in the sense that a lot of these buildings are on the National Register, but they're not on the National Register because of the places where the enslaved stayed. They're on the National Register because of the places that are attached to them.
But if we go to your website, we'll get this information.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And we'll know where to go if we desire to visit one of the slave dwellings.
Oh, yeah, easily.
What motivated you to do this?
A void. There was a void in history in the buildings that we choose to preserve. If you were to go to Charleston, good example, and if you were to go on one of the tours, carriage tours, house tours, or any of those tours, and when they talk about slavery, excuse me, when they talk about the period prior to the Civil War, there is not a lot of talk about the enslaved. So knowing that the story exists, knowing that the buildings are there that can help us tell that story, it was kind of the nucleus, if you will, the impetus for me to start this project, because as long as the buildings are there, we still have a chance to talk about them, to save them. Some of these buildings are on the verge of collapse, you know, demolition by neglect. But if we bring the attention to them now, we can save these buildings.
Okay, the Slave Dwelling Project. And if they want more information, what is the website?
The website is www.slavedwellingproject.org. That's www.slavedwellingproject.org.
And if they want to get in contact with you, is there?
On that same website, Joseph McGill, you can find all the information to get in contact with me. You can email me at slavedwellingproject@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you for being here on Bounce Around Charleston.
Thank you.
Some important information, the Slave Dwelling Project. If you want more information, go to that website. Coming up, historian, author, Damon Fordham. He'll be right here on Bounce Around Charleston after this break.